for being here. I want to be very, very clear. Our public schools, our teachers, and our education workforce are in crisis. This is not a surprise. We have known this for some time. We have heard from school district administrators who lose quality educators to the private sector. We have heard from teachers themselves that a severe lack of pay and worsening work-life balance have driven them out of a profession that they are so passionate about. And it is our kids, our future leaders, who suffer. Today, the Department of Public Instruction is releasing a report that shows just how dire this crisis is. We have a major teacher retention problem in Wisconsin. Our data tells us that almost 40% of new teachers leave Wisconsin or leave the profession altogether, just after 6 years. Think about that. About 4 out of every 10 new teachers are no longer in the classroom. They're no longer educating our children. Wisconsin is losing quality teachers that we should not be losing. This is unacceptable. There are specific reasons teachers cite for leaving teaching. Among them, and perhaps the most shocking, is how underpaid they are. Since 2010, compensation for Wisconsin teachers has decreased 19% in real dollars, despite having the incredible responsibility of educating our kids and helping them achieve future success. Our state's teachers get paid far less than they deserve, and far less than other industries. These pay cuts happen at the same time that teachers are being asked to do even more. They're still being asked to take their work home with them. They're being asked to work over the weekends. They're being often asked to teach both in person and virtually, sometimes simultaneously. And they're being asked to take on even greater burdens of addressing special education needs without the staff or resources to effectively do so. And yet, we hear stories of teachers having to get second and third jobs and going to great lengths just so they can pay their bills. We have to pay our teachers what they are worth, or we risk losing more and more of them. Failing to do so is failing our students. So let me also note that we hear a lot of concern about learning loss and about the effect on the pandemic. And if we're going to solve challenges around achievement, if we're going to compete in the global economy, and if we're going to put every student on their best footing, that can only happen if we invest in our educators. And while this crisis continues to snowball, I'm here to tell you that we have the means to do more. For our teachers, for our students, for our public schools, the state needs to uphold its responsibility of appropriately funding our public schools. For far too long, our public schools have been willfully underfunded, which has led to cutting student programming and opportunities, increasing class sizes, and putting more and more on staff who are being compensated less and less. Wisconsin has billions of dollars sitting in its coffers that could be used to relieve public schools of these constraints. Using just a portion of our budget surplus to give our schools a meaningful funding increase would allow them to meet the growing needs of our students and our teachers. It would allow us to change this troubling trend of teacher retention. It would help schools keep qualified, passionate teachers in the classroom. It would help our students succeed. At the Department of Public Instruction, we are taking action to the extent that we can. Last year, we launched the Special Education Induction Program. This program helps new special educators by building a support, coaching, and mentoring network. We started this program not only because special education is an area of great need, but because providing mentorship opportunities is a proven retention strategy. The Department of Workforce Development recently partnered with the DPI to create a teacher apprenticeship program, which will bring more teachers into the system and give new teachers great opportunities to build networks of support and professional learning. We continue to innovate new ways to implement career pathways into teaching and to support educator preparation programs, educator effectiveness, mentoring, and educator licensing. We are taking action at the DPI to the extent that we can, but we need the legislature to take action. Our state legislature needs to address this crisis head on. We cannot wait another year until the next budget. We must demand that our elected leaders make the necessary investments in our public schools, in our students, in our educators. It is our collective responsibility, and yet we've fallen short. We are in a crisis, but this is not an unsolvable crisis, one that can't be resolved. Our state has the resources to do so. It's just they have chosen not to. The time is now to reinvest in our students, our educators, and our public schools. Thank you. I'm going to pass this now to Director Jennifer Cameron. Thank you. Thank you.
So my name is Jennifer Camroot. I am the Director of the Licensing, Educator Advancement and Development team at the Department of Public Instruction. And I want to start today by recognizing 3 colleagues at the department that helped construct and write this report with me. Justin Meyer, Research Analyst, Dr. Joshua Kundert, Education Consultant, and Allison Heim, Research Analyst. I also want to recognize UW-Madison's Wisconsin Evaluation Collaborative for the analysis they did of the hiring survey we administered. What you see in this report is the result of significant data analysis connecting multiple state and federal data sets to inform the public as to what the workforce pipeline and picture for educators looks like in the state of Wisconsin. Federal data from the U.S. Census Bureau, National Center for Education Statistics, and Title II of the Higher Education Act were utilized. State data from the Department of Public Instruction related to licensure, employment history, compensation, and demographics were also used, along with retirement data from the Department of Employee Trust Funds. There is a lot to look at in this report, but the overall picture is of a state that is maintaining its ability to attract people to the profession of teaching, but challenged in the ability to keep those individuals. A few bright spots in the report. Enrollments in educator preparation programs continue to exceed those of neighboring states when it comes to getting back to 2008-09 levels. That was a high watermark. Additionally, Wisconsin has added significant flexibility into our laws over the last few years to provide more options for career changers looking to enter the teaching profession. Meanwhile, the retirement rate for educators remains stable, and we are producing more teachers than are retiring. Yet we are losing so many teachers. So many. This especially happens at the point at which prospective teachers complete a program and in the first 6 years they are employed. As you heard earlier from Dr. Underly, Wisconsin's retention rate of first-year teachers is only 60% by year 6. We also, though, lost over 1,500 teachers in 21-22, the last year covered by the report, who completed educator preparation programs but ultimately chose not to become employed in a Wisconsin public school. Wisconsin's shortage is significantly impacted by our inability to keep those who complete educator preparation programs in Wisconsin as teachers and the loss of first-year teachers in those initial 6 years. In addition to these overall challenges, we also have specific subject area shortages that we can see from our data. Both our licensure data and a survey we did of Wisconsin school districts show us that special education is the #1 shortage area for school districts. 74% of districts answering the survey indicated they had vacancies in this area, and this was listed as their top concern. Finally, new to the report this year is an analysis of retention and shortage data by locale codes established by the National Center for Education Statistics, which differentiates school districts based on the designation of city, suburb, town, and rural. And there are some differences we're seeing here as well. For example, based on licensure data, cities had the highest shortage rate at 5.5%, followed by rural at 4%, town 3.7%, and suburb at 2.4%. So like much of our data in this report, as we continue this analysis, we'll have to see if differences persist, diminish, or grow wider, and the implications of those differences on students, schools, and communities. Thank you, and with that, I am turning all things over to Superintendent Hill.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So teaching is the one profession that starts all other professions. And quality teachers and school systems are required to have healthy youth, healthy families, and healthy communities. So Dr. Underly, thank you for creating this opportunity to discuss the very important topic of teacher attraction and retention. We've heard some statistics from the 2022 Education Preparation Program and Workforce Analysis Report. So allow me just to bring that data to life a little bit with some anecdotes from Wausau. So first, it's important to know that Wausau is an attractive school district. In my conversations with other district leaders, we tend to get more applicants for positions than most. Our compensation and benefits are competitive compared to other school districts, and our teacher retention rates are healthy. And yet, teacher attraction and retention is one of our biggest challenges to maintaining excellence for our students. So to address this challenge, we use the same tools that other schools use, those that were outlined in that report. We invest as much as possible into compensation. We attend hiring fairs. We offer strong mentoring and professional learning opportunities. We work hard to be an attractive employer and nurture a strong reputation for excellence. And when that's not enough, then we turn to other avenues. Currently, we employ 36 teachers who are not fully licensed. At the start of this school year, we were unable to fill 12 certified positions. We were lucky enough to fill 5 of them at the semester. So it's 48 vacancies that we weren't able to fill with certified staff. I do want to note that we are able to hire quality people. They just haven't maybe been fully prepared for the significant challenges that occur in our classrooms. More broadly, Wisconsin's investment in public education has weakened. You've heard a little bit of that today. The state's investment in public education has fallen behind that in many of our other states, and our budgets speak to our priorities. So while I understand there are many priorities, and we have good conversations with our legislators, if other states are able to make those investments, why can't Wisconsin? For those who don't know, just a mini lesson on school finance, the state funding, the amount that schools are able to spend or districts are able to spend is limited through the funding formula by something called the revenue limit. When the funding formula was created, it was based on the premise that that revenue limit would rise each year equivalent to the cost of living, or CPI. And that just hasn't happened. So back, comparing our current revenue limits to 2011, we aren't able to invest to the same level we were 10, 12 years ago. So how do we pay for increased costs for transportation, utilities, maintaining our schools if our revenues don't increase with those increasing costs? And folks, that's only 15% of our budget. How do we pay our teachers and our staff salaries that that help them feel respected and help them stay in this most important profession? School funding decisions made by the state have left the Wausau School District alone with a shortage of $9 million per year. We currently have a $3.5 million deficit. That's in direct result of the decisions that have been made in terms of state funding. Is that what people want? Do people want a slow degradation of the public school system? I don't think they do, but I don't think they know it happens because educators make do. They make do with less, but that making do has a cost. And what you heard in this report is evidence of that cost that we're paying for us making do over time. So one of the tenets that I learned from my Native American friends and colleagues is the concept of 7-generation thinking. The decisions we make today are going to have an impact on our future. What impact will it have on the kids 7 generations from now? How does degrading a free public education system impact the children 7 generations from now? Let me end with a quick personal story. I'm very proud that my son has chosen to be a teacher. He attended Wisconsin public K-12 schools throughout his life. He attended Wisconsin University. He got certified as a choral teacher, and he accepted a job in a small district in our region who last year was unable to find a certified choir teacher. This district, a point of pride for them used to be their choir program, their music program. How does it impact a community when they aren't able to find certified teachers to support those very important programs for our kids? I hope we can reverse this trend and not have to learn that lesson anymore the hard way. So thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here, and also thank you, Dr. Arnerly, and your team. My name is Al Betry, and I'm Agency Administrator at CISA 9, located in Tomahawk. And one of the things that we're going to paint a regional picture for you with this report. We serve 22 school districts in north central Wisconsin, 102 public schools, over 2,800 teachers, and 35,000 students. So it's quite a broad reach. I'm very proud of what we do in our schools in Wisconsin, especially in Wausau, especially in Merrill, in Tomahawk, in Northland Pines, all the school districts that we serve, 22 of them, and the dedicated and talented staff that show up every day for kids and do their best. As a CISA, we're dedicated for service to others. Servant leadership is what we're about. And we're fortunate to see the great work that happens. We also see the struggles and the challenges. We have quality schools because we have quality people, and we can't afford to lose that. We have challenges on a daily basis that Keith and Jill and others have mentioned today. But some of the things that I want to show you and talk about are things that happen regionally that are also part of this report, but it's also telling a story of need, a story of success, also a story of struggle. One of the things that we are seeing in our 22 school districts that we work with as a CISA is hiring pools have decreased significantly. This is hiring season. Sometimes we have pools of 3, sometimes 5, sometimes 0. And this is not in just what we would call traditional shortage areas. These are areas that include math, they include science, they include foreign language, they also include English, which, as you know, is very, very important for the teaching of reading. We also have weekly calls that we take from administrators asking, Al, do you have anybody in mind for a science position? Is anybody out there? We can't find anybody. Well, what happens? Limited pools mean decreased quality of applicants. We all want what's best for our kids. That's why we do what we do. We're passionate about that. Districts are not satisfied with having 3 to 5 people showing up for an interview. They want 50. They want 130, like the first time I applied for a job. They also know that with this come when you have a small pool, that means some might be unlicensed. Some might not have qualifications. That's what's called a Tier 1 license, which Jennifer knows well. But also it is something that requires more training, more investment, more time, more energy, more money from school districts. If there are no applicants, that means internal shifts are made. Teachers take on additional duties. Teachers get other licenses. Teachers try to be mobile to help kids in need. And with that come more responsibilities. In the report, you can see that work-life balance is one of the reasons that sometimes people leave the profession. This also leads to add-on licenses, one of which is called a 3-year license with stipulations, which requires a portfolio. We have, with increased flexibility, comes increased accountability. And also, we have maybe a content test edition. All those things take time and money, but they are important to have flexibilities, which DPI has worked hard with CISAs and others to make sure we do that. Something else that's out there that are lack of substitute teachers. We have, every day, we are lacking that. And what happens, CISA's train subs. We've trained at CISA probably over about 600 subs in my last 10 years at CISA. But what happens with that is when we can't have substitute teachers show up, teachers fill in for those, taking away from their time to plan, to grade, to meet with parents, to talk with administrators. That also is challenging. And we also have teacher mobility, which is something that happens, movement between districts. that causes other districts to fill needs late in the game. So why are people leaving? You saw some of the reasons in the report, or you will read it. But you know what? We spend a lot of time and money and energy in a teacher's first 6 years, especially first 3 to 5 years in training. This is important. It's also costly to replace a teacher that is lost. After 1 year, yes, but after 5 or 6 years, that's a very tough thing for districts to face. So what also goes out the door is institutional knowledge. People that have been trained up, people that are very, very good with kids, with students, that have respect, and that's hard to replace. With that, the reasons that we see regionally, workload challenges. We ask for more every day, teachers do it. That's what we do. But also that brings even more challenges for them in their daily work. Student behavior challenges, mental health, those kinds of things we hear a lot about. We continue to try to support teachers and students in that, but they're increasing. Lack of support or mentoring can happen. When we get busy, we have to make cuts. We lose mentors for teachers. We find at CISA that one of our roles we fill is mentoring and coaching teachers. To have a support group is extremely important. We need more of that. Compensation. We lose people to other professions. We also sometimes have different districts pay different wages with different salaries, which can cause people to look for different jobs and movement. Also workload changes, and also location of where people are living. And housing is another very, very important thing we have to address. So as a CISA, our role, we provide support, training, and coaching to help with challenges. Dr. Arnley mentioned the special education AR grant of supporting special education teachers. We have 19 teachers being supported by CISA coaches, and it's going extremely well. They feel connected. They feel like they have a support group, and someone, I call it phone a friend, a lifeline, is there for them. That's important. We have to have more of that. We need to have more sub-training programs, more people to tap into. We also are making sure that we provide Tier 1 and Tier 2 licensing support, portfolio development to help teachers. And we also have a focus on Grow Your Own. We hear Grow Your Own used a lot. Grow Your Own is also about making sure that we have tapped into resources that aren't out there. For example, one thing we've done at CISA 9 is a career changer pathway. We have people that are trained in universities, they want to teach. We provided the Excellence in Teaching program, which currently have teachers placed in 16 of our 22 districts going through our program. And we have trained 150 teachers in that program since its inception in 2017. We also fill void for districts like speech and language pathologists, school psychologists, other areas that we can. So the future, we have to rebrand, rebuild, and regrow the profession. We have to make sure that we ensure we have the best and brightest. We have to address the issues that we face, both financially and things that are in our control as a district. And we have to make sure that we have the right people in front of kids that make a difference every day. There is nothing more important than having quality staff, quality teachers, quality leaders working with our kids. And we also know that we have that. We want to keep it. We're proud of our teachers and leaders, but we have to make sure that we're thinking creatively with a solutions-focused mindset on this whole idea and this problem. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to hopefully addressing this issue best we can.
We do have time for a couple of questions, if any of you have any questions.
Well, as a representative of an ABC affiliate in the area, Abbott Elementary has become a pretty popular show. And just the general public, it's highlighted a lot of the highs and lows of the teaching profession. As a state, what is it going to take to, show more people why it is so important to be a teacher, despite what may be, shown in, shows like Abbott Elementary?
That's a great question. And actually, I think about the story that Superintendent Hilt was sharing about the 7 generations problem, right? Or thinking 7 generations ahead. When you think about the impact that teachers have on your lives, I think all of us could agree that we had a teacher in our lives that we still remember. We remember their influence, we remember their kindness, we remember maybe even the content that they demonstrated in the classroom. They remember how that person made you feel, right? And these are important adults in the lives of our kids. And you think about the impact that has on our life. We as a community, I think, could all agree that we want great teachers and great schools, you know, supporting our kids. But what is the message that we're sending as a society when we devalue them? Whether we attack them in media or in social media groups, whether we, you know, appreciate the extra mile that they show our kids, they're treated fairly poorly as a collective. And in addition to that, I mean, we don't compensate them for what they're worth. And a lot of their skills, actually, I would argue all of their skills are transferable. They can take these skills that they know and take it into other professions. I lose teachers when I was a superintendent and principal to things like insurance or other corporations that needed people to train or just needed people who knew how to talk to people. I mean, these are the skills that teachers have. They're educated. And while the TV shows show us the joys and sometimes the downs, the lows, I think as a society we have to have a reckoning. Are teachers important? Are our schools important? Because this is the future, right? And 7 generations from now, or even your kids or your grandkids, what is the impact going to be on them if they don't have a high quality education because they didn't have a teacher in that classroom?
Building off of that, the data you presented is phenomenal and appreciated. And I think for many people, your average people, not educators, not people in the industry, it can feel like a lot of information without a next step. So I'd love to ask any of you, what is something that the person watching this at home, that the parent, the community member, the business person can do to help solve this problem?
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, what is the call to action? Certainly. I think understanding how we got here is really important, and I appreciate the colleagues standing up here with me for bringing that issue to light. This is not a problem that started overnight. This is something that has been happening because of repeated underfunding of public education. When you look at the number of school districts that are going to referendum because they need money just to keep the lights on or just to pay the average increases in utility bills or transportation, the bulk of our budgets, as the superintendent said here, is personnel. It is the staff. It is 85% in the vast majority of our school districts statewide. And when you continually deplete those funds, that's where the cuts are made. It's in personnel. So what can you do? We need to have a call to action. We need to ask, you know, certainly our legislature has the funding. They have a $4 billion surplus. They could solve this problem right now. But it's also going to take collective action for all of us to continue to show support and appreciation for the educators in our buildings, the ones who are taking care of and preparing our kids for the future. Anybody else want to add to that? Or you can add to what else we can do as a group.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done too.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like